The last section of our conference, Riga plus port equals love. What we will do now is something new for us in urban planning and for architects. Probably it's nothing new for IT specialists and startups. So we will play a game. And I would like you to be more active. Please get involved. And there are two things I want from you. First, be ready to ask questions and be practical. And think along the lines if the idea you hear would work in your neighborhood. And if you would want people to implement this idea, and maybe you want to join those 13 brave people who will share their ideas and implementing them. And a reminder, in your folders you have a page, one but the last, with orange stickers. Please attach these stickers on the map near the entrance. You will listen to 13 proposals, 13 ideas. You have 6 stickers. Use them to vote. Attach them next to your preferred idea on the map. And please think along and ask questions to the authors of these ideas. Support them, please. How are we going to proceed? First of all, we will have 4 sections, 4 topics, with 3 or less or more presentations in each section. Our prominent jury will have the opportunity to present their take on these ideas, and the audience will also be able to ask questions. I hope that there will be questions which will help the authors of the ideas to implement their ideas and improve them. And there are no correct or incorrect ideas. We're all on a learning curve here. Thank you to Victoria Berlinska, who helped me to pull it off. She found all of you and summarized all these ideas. Please come up in threes. Use the microphone, 3 minutes for each presenter. Every speaker introduces to their idea. We listen to all the ideas within a certain topic, and then ask questions, support, think along. We have a jury here. I would like to ask the jury to take their places on these white sofas over there. We have a representative of the municipality, Guido Princis, the Riga city architect. We have a representative from the port. The port has to be present. They have to know what their neighbors have in their mind. Edgar Suna, please take your seat. And we have community representatives, Alina Turlaja. Please take your seat on the sofa. She represents the Community Alliance, the joint power of these communities. And our next jury member, Artis Mertens, Idea Bank, or Project Bank, sorry. Projectbank.lv is a website, pool funding tool, which focuses on what we are about to discuss, the ideas which can be implemented in real life, how to make the environment around us better. And Artis could be the one who could help us improve the specific ideas, to motivate people think how to inspire others, to inspire people to raise their hands, to apply, to participate, and to engage. It is clear how the presentations will be structured. I would like to ask the jury to listen carefully, and the presenters are ready to go on stage. The first presenter. Oh, it seems I have the presentation ready. Let's start with the ideas from the neighborhood. The first three or four ideas. Nils Balgalvis, please take the floor first. And your idea actually is a surprise to all of us. Even the interpreters don't have the presentation.
Hello. Before I start presenting my idea, I will ask you, how many of you in childhood wanted to become doctors? Raise your hands. Okay. Spaceman? Couple. Okay. And my story is about cruise ships and walking by foot. I will start with this object, Voyager 1, shot out from the Earth in 1971, and the speed is 60,000 kilometers per hour. So how soon it will reach the first most closest to us star? Within how years? 100 more? 1,000 more? 80,000. Yes. And this example very clearly shows the problem of planning in the world and in Latvia. We send something to the stars and we try to understand the time frame, and we don't understand why it's not happening and happening. These numbers are 38 number of ferries in Riga port in 2193, that is number in Copenhagen. In Latvia, number of passengers 166,000. In Copenhagen, 22,307. So after a couple of years, you see the comparison. It's slightly higher, 25 in Latvia, 337 in Copenhagen. Passengers, 850,000 in Latvia and 85,923 in Copenhagen. So we still have a lot to do. The biggest problem of cruise is the 6 hours. The next issue is short connection with Stockholm. If we say that we need to be on the map, so Riga should also be there, but it's not there. And that is a Cruise Baltic network from Riga, St. Petersburg, and Cologne. I really hope that Rail Baltic, when developing, when developed, will make Riga as transport hub in the Baltic states. And Riga Cruise Terminal is one of the starting points and possibilities. But this is not my idea. This is confirmation that we have to do that. How many of you have used a Tallink to go to Sweden? See, almost everybody. So you know how it works. But if to look from another angle, I am a typical Swedish family, and I'm coming from Stockholm to Riga with ferry, with the company Tallink, well-known company, and I am now in Riga. And I have Google Map, and I am now checking how to get to the center. That's how I look. Some kind of terminal is there from 80s, 90s. So the first to attack me is cab drivers that offer me to go to the center by paying 50 euros or something like that. Okay, the next I try to check how I use public transport to go to the center. Okay, yes, I see there's a tram line, but how to get to the tram? There's no connection. I do not see through Google Maps. Okay, I'm sweet. I like to walk. I could walk. And my possibilities is to march the export street between the fence and the highway. or try to squeeze through parking lots which are not shown in the map, or come to the dead end of one street. So for the next 2 years, we have to make easy and secure pedestrian connection from Riga passenger terminal till Old Riga. Thank you. Great. A very exciting idea. We still have 2 presentations. Mark Alvane, the second one. Hello. The theme is combining every element. I am planner. I am also urban resident. If I work with at the port, I am also representing the port. And the question is, between these 4 actors, and there's a bridge or some road where we could meet, or we are like on separate parts of the canyon, and that is the common public opinion, actually. When we look back at the history, in the morning, this history session was very great. Riga planning, city and port, and there's a map of 1936 showing that there's no Bolderāja nor Kunziņsala. Then there is the first development plan from 1995, where the city and planners were the bosses, and the port and urban residents participated just a little, if at all. But during the last 10 years, really a lot has been done. Negotiations with the port, through the port to the inhabitants, have been at least started, because we have found those ways how to communicate, because it's quite difficult, because all the information is confidential right now, and if there were no associations of the neighborhoods, and then there would be no one to speak to. Bridges, yes or no? We have at least started to build those bridges for negotiations, cooperation. In ideal variant, there could be a possibility for any inhabitant to go to Mr. Suna and ask what's new, but we shouldn't face any problems to the existing bridges again. And the question is, bridges or bypasses? And my idea, what the port can give to the city and the city to the port, that is a renewal of the ferry traffic, but not the ones which Niels mentioned, but the local route, the ferry transport in Riga, whichever route we choose. Thank you. Thank you for this idea. And the last, third for this block, Bruno Bitaitis. And then we are ready to share our comments. Good evening, everyone. I am happy that you are not scared away by the Halloween, and there are so many people. I am Bruno Bitaitis, and I am one of the students of master's program of RISEBA. Our course participated in a competition organized by Baltic Urban Lab and Riga City Planning Department, where the potential visions for development of Mukusala territory were created. So, our offer was based on the basis of previous researchers and studies which examined the possibilities to develop this Pārdaugava territory as a territory of knowledge. As we see, there are a lot of higher educational establishments in Pārdaugavas territory, and in the existing Mukusala territory there is a business center. Mukusala's business center is used as existing important player, and in our offer we realized that the idea that it would be necessary to create symbiosis between education and business. In order to facilitate all that, we studied different cooperation models with the help of which we could facilitate this development. One of the models is exchange of partnership, where we compare possible way how universities could exchange with enterprises, with their power resources, whether it's academic staff or curriculums or some equipment, whatever. Another model could be exchange of flow, financing flow. The companies give their financing, universities in exchange give their knowledge researches. That is standard innovation model. The third one is triangulation cooperation, when there is the cooperation between university, companies, and municipality, government. And the fourth is strategic partnering, where specific universities, specific companies cooperate and develop their own strategies. For this model, we choose triangulation cooperation because we saw that government, municipality really has effect on the universities and the education field in general. Therefore, it is important to involve them in development of the common strategy. In our offer, we saw the main directions of action for development of the territory. So in short term, that would be maintenance of the territory, creation of dialogue between higher educational establishments and municipality. In the mid-term, that would be involvement of inhabitants, attraction of companies, investors in dialogue, and in the long terms that would be digital planning, construction, infrastructure and buildings, and expansion of this center outside Mūksala. This is a very good example how we are observing the time, and let's think about which is my idea, who else could be interested in that apart from me. So now we have 3 great ideas, and we have 4 representatives of the jury. We had ferry, so we had Innovation Technology Park, ferry for inhabitants, ferry for Riga inhabitants. Now we have here representatives of Port Edgars, area of communities or neighborhood associations, professional observer financists, and Guido Princes, representative of the city. Which are the first conclusions? Well, quite intense. Were there any questions, or what about the questions? Questions will be asked later. So, first of all, what do you think? Does the city need it? Is the city interested in it, in the ideas presented? Well, all 3 ideas, to me, are the ones we have discussed before. How Swedish tourists could get to the old Riga, or river transport in different ways, cooperation between knowledge institutions and government. These are very topical suggestions from the point of view of implementing them. The most visible contribution would be from the idea of pedestrian connection with cruise ships to the city center. It's quite challenging. At the same time, that is a question of reputation, and like Neil said, it's important to put Riga city on the map of the world. So the city then votes for this idea. Yes, that would be priority for us. What about the port? The port acts in its own territory, but neighbors are also interesting persons, right? You want to be open. Ferries and vessels, that's your field of responsibility. I have a dual situation. I can look at these suggestions like a Riga inhabitant, which I am, or a representative of the port. Well, it's a game, so now you have to play the game. I would vote for the first idea if representing Riga Freeport Authority. That would be practical and implementable solution. We have received different approaches and suggestions from the port and from the city that people sometimes are confused and they don't really know how to get to the center and they can't understand that. It's a good idea. We have to find solutions. I'll hear your ideas. For communities, do you need local water transport, or you need tourists, or you need knowledge? Well, we can ask for a lot. But if we look at these three ideas and topicality of these ideas in the short term and maybe also in the long term, because tourists would like to come there for the long term as well, I would vote for the convenient pedestrian connection to the old Riga, because first of all, Riga city, when offboarding the ferry, well, to say, if Riga invests so much in the roads to satisfy the needs of Riga Freeport, then why Riga city cannot provide of construction of one pedestrian street for the small enterprises like catering enterprises to welcome their hungry tourists in their cafes in Riga center? Well, Bruno, sorry, your idea was quite intangible, I would say. It's not bad, but it's difficult to perceive it right now. About the pedestrian connection, there's nothing to add. It's just bad that we haven't done it up till now. And we have to arrange it ASAP. Ferry traffic, local stylish ferry traffic by the river, that could also be a very great idea. Thank you, our jury. So what about the questions? Whatever, not question, comments, opinions. Sorry for technical problems. There's a repair of a mic, but we have to use the mic nevertheless. I have a question for first two ideas. Probably you don't want to hear this question nevertheless. Who will do that? About the nails idea. We developed that 10 years ago and tried to harmonize that with the city, within the framework of reconstruction of the city square, but we didn't realize it. So, but everything was done. And the same is about the ferries. And there have been long and multiplied discussions. There have been research studies carried on. Who will do that, or which organization will do that, and in which way? We still have some questions coming. Aija-Līskupa Baltic International Academy. I have a suggestion that if we really could succeed with a pedestrian connection to the old Riga centers, then we could also make a bicycle roads, rolling skate possibilities, and so. About those local ferries, when I was a kid and I was attending the school, then the whole embankment was full of small boats. Everyone who wished was buying a boat, and they were there, and they were going along the river. So where they disappeared, the question is. The first comment to the nails idea. The jury should take responsibility for implementation of this idea. We really wanted to do something, and my story is how long can we talk about future visions? This is one simple idea, and I didn't say anything new. If we cannot make this connection during 10 years, then what are we talking here about at all? Why are we wasting time? Really? Well, but who? Okay, I will not say Guido Princis is the one who will do that. I will say Nails Baltgals. You can initiate me. But it's a story about initiative, about the players, the transport department, the port. We have 10, 20 structures that could be responsible for that. Let's come together and start doing those small things we can do. Thank you. These suggestions are very nice. Maybe we will have more comments later on. This was like a warming sample how we want to do that. Let's think about those ideas, whether they are attractive to you as well, and let's be active. We can criticize, we can give advices. Now I forgot. Really, we wanted to give some thank you tokens for the previous speakers for their courage. They invested in their ideas. I hope that next presenters are ready, and we really want to hear such ideas, not only in the conference, but in the life, like Nails said. Go find the responsible person, approach that person, and request this person to do that. Next chapter, water traffic. Māris Jansons, Association Kunziņas. I will continue with the theme started by Māra Kalvāne about the ferries. Vecmilgrāvis, Mangaisala, Bolderāja, Daugavgrīva. And these are big communities, neighborhoods, and there is absolutely no connection between them at all. We also heard that bridges are of a very rich, expensive infrastructure, but we have River Daugava, we have a great possibility to use water courses. They are cool, and they are so cool that a lot of Riga inhabitants are paying money just to drive along River Daugava without any aim, and that is a big difference. I do not know any normal Riga inhabitants that would use those free of charge tourist buses to just drive along Riga without any aim. Nevertheless, on each side of Daugava we have neighborhoods which are as big as city Valmiera, and there's no connection. They have to go to Riga center to go to another place. Imagine two city Valmieras on both sides of a river, example, and they have to go through Cesis to get to another side of the river. It's not a good idea. There's a picture. I have also a small video, maybe we will be able to see it. You can see how different places are there, which should not be like unused berths, but just 50 meters for a ferry to enter, and people could go with their cars and within 10 minutes to get to the other side of River Daugava, and that would be much easier and cheaper than to go through the center of the city. This was really a great idea. Thank you. The next presentation is about tourism. Hello, my name is Armens. I work for 16 years in tourist information field, and I also have an idea which concerns tourism ship or vessel route development between the Old Riga and Ķīpsala. That would be one route, and between Spīteri Quartal so, like I tell, the first from Old Riga to Ķīpsala, and the second one from Spīteri till Zaķu where there is TV tower. Why not regular transport flow, but tourism transport flow? First of all, the price factor is very important. Currently, these are small ships, boats going around the channel along Daugava. One ticket is 18 euros. And for a regular ticket price, it's not acceptable. But tourists really like those small boats, and they are using them. Another issue is that these boats, which are sailing right now, when they are approaching Ķīpsala, for example, they are stopped there. There was one route, experimental route from Spīteri to TV Tower. From the point of view of tourism, it is important that the boat river transport characterizes Riga as tourist destination from other angle. That Riga is the port city, that there is water courses. On another hand, that would allow to develop tourism objects on another bank of Daugava. TV Tower will be reconstructed in 2022. So that's again like facilitator. Concerning Ķīpsala, it's already very attractive. The architectural landscape and the museum and green territories there. Nevertheless, we could attach this tourism product and develop these tourism products on another side of Daugava, and that would allow to direct the tourism flow more to that side, because from that point of view, that side of Daugava is not developed sufficiently. Thank you. Passenger boats, tourist boats or vessels, and we have already addresses, and now the floor is given to Egons for his idea. Again, some technical problems. We all are learning, like I said. Good evening, people here in the audience. A lot of you know me from cooperation, from my colleagues. I'm really happy. Thank you, Guido and other organizers, for the possibility to be there. I was born in Lašu Street, grew up in Jaunmīlgrāvis, and Slow Speed were the first English words which I saw when I was fishing in the channel dug by the monks of Middle Ages. The story could end there as well. The left bank, the mile of knowledge, we could add this mile of knowledge still, because partly we are doers when we involve Riseba Technical University, Latvian University, and architecture offices, and at the port of competency. That would be Agenskalnu Port, and that would be Knowledge Road for the Knowledge Mile. Ports are social clusters, or learning classes, training classes are social clusters. In a class, we currently have 10 languages used, and that is a normal situation in the ports, because we see a lot of needs. We would like to replace the picture in this slide. PowerPoint is not working. Okay, let's forget it. We would like to see the Baldaraya Yacht Club. We want to renew it. Somebody says, no, you must not. No, we can do that. Why not? We have exhausted our potential intellectual fighting about the buffer zone, about the buffer zone in the context of one ship, one house. We can do that. This is a way how to express architectural values. We make segregation. In planning in 2010, already a lot of things were solved in the historical center. We hope that we continue to participate in this sphere as ambitious we are. We would like to interfere practically with this story. We want to build something new. This is our project when we forget the past and when we finance the future. Pictures from the bank window, and the possibility to build a barge and place it on the water together legally. Another three great ideas, thank you. We had a route practical for passengers in the north of Riga city, but more touching the port territory. Then we had route for tourists, more in Riga center, more touching city. And then we had the universal idea and suggestion, I try to understand that, to boats and vessels to moor. What are your comments on this?
It's very difficult to speak after Mr. Bērziņš presentation. It's been a positive shock. With regard to boats, tour boats, the only thing I remember is the wooden boat or ship which tours around Riga. With regard to the others, I don't see any added value, and Arments, Kaspars, and others have plenty of opportunities to create a new product. Similarly to Ventspils, their Hippocampus tour boat is hugely popular among the locals and tourists alike. For example, the captain of this tour boat has stories to share and is really enthusiastic, and this ride is an experience in itself, an adventure to avoid the situations then those overseeing the tour boats are grumpy old men. So what was common to all those three presentations, and what is a recommendation to the Riga city? We're too afraid to experiment. We could implement pilot projects, for example, experimental tours between Vecmilgrāvs and Mangaļsala. We could try these services out and to cut the bureaucratic barriers in the neighborhoods and put in place these opportunities at least seasonally in summers. They would improve Riga's image as a vibrant, attractive city with cool venues. All three ideas show that we experiment too little. Their ideas could serve as catalysts to make these changes happen. With regard to Māris' idea, that's nothing new. We do not use the watercourses for mobility enough. The quality sign of any place is not only how to get there, but how to leave it, how comfortably you can do that. And for example, me personally, I've been in Bolderāja only a couple of times in my life because it's so difficult to reach, so inaccessible. In a city where there's so many watercourses, water transport is vitally necessary, and Daugava does not freeze over in winter. So the residents think that we need water transport. Yes, we need water transport, and me as the resident of Sarkan Daugava am ready to get involved in this project. So what about mooring these boats and tour boats? Are you ready to see people in these mooring places? In my opinion, all three proposals should be merged into one project, namely a more efficient use of the Daugava harbor area, which would enable both locals and tourists use these opportunities. Mr. Bērziņš had grand ideas, and the port is ready to help with these ideas as long as they are sustainable. We wouldn't want to run into the situation when we build berths or mooring spots and they are not used. For example, there is a beautiful bike path in Ķengaraks, a very beautiful cycling path, and at some point it stops. It hasn't been developed further. So the local residents should be able to use this water transport, and there should be connections. So when we get off the riverboat, they should be able to take another type of transport. The transit connection points should be taken care of. Just a practical view from the port's perspective, these proposals are not related to the port's basic activities, but the port should help in implementing these ideas. And we are ready to assist as long as the city is the driving force. Well, I like your proposition. What about the city or the city representative? I'm not indifferent to any of these ideas. I wouldn't even be able probably to be impartial. In a way, I've been present when these ideas have been discussed. As Ali has said, our city needs experiments, experimental projects, calculated experiments with calculated risk. I believe that we as adults know the risks which there are when we build new berths or mooring places. The Freeport Authority could manage its territories, and the city could oversee this process in general from the top. And that would be a good platform for new experiments. Bolderāja, Vecmīlgrāvis, at the end of Zivju Street, Mangaļsala, at the end of Mangaļsala Street, Vecrīga, Old Riga near Spīķeri Quarter, Ķīpsala, Zaķusala. These are the priority stops or destinations which we could conceptually agree on, and we just have to implement these projects. Both the city and the port have to roll up their sleeves and make sure these destinations can be reached. Maybe the tourist companies have some ideas how to reach these destinations with tour boats or similar. And the city should be bolder and experiment with these transit connections between Bolderāja and Vecmīlgrāvis, for instance. People in the neighborhoods haven't realized this possibility yet. Maybe that's why there's no real demand. As soon as this idea is disseminated or this project is implemented, the attitude will change and the demand will be there. I would support this idea. So as we heard, the city is ready to continue this discussion and to support this project, maybe even launch these projects. The port is ready to consult. We heard that it's a good business project. We heard that the proactive citizens are ready to get involved. What about you? The rest? 3 short opinions, comments. I know guys who are building their boats. They are not sure about the route yet. The question is if the city or the port will provide funding for this project. It is not cheap at all. Next comment, gentleman at the back. My comment is the city and the port, in a certain framework of cooperation or by introducing infrastructure, has to help. The potential is huge. It's like ensuring transit between 2 communities in the size of Valmiera town. First there will be 1 boat, and soon there will be 3 and more. Our guest from abroad, your comment please. Vēlos tikai iedvesmot. Rotterdamā mums jau ir ūdens autobus, kurš darbojas jau daudzus gadus, un tas savieno pilsētas centru ar nomales ciematiem. Un jūs varat izmantot to pašu biļeti, ja braukšanas karti, gan ūdens autobusam, gan pārējiem transportam, tramvajam, sauszemes autobusiem. Jūs varat ņemt līdzi savu velosipēdu. Jā, jūs pat varat tiešām doties ar ūdens autobusu uz pilsētas centru un paņemt līdzi savu velosipēdu. Mums ir arī ūdens taksometri, un tas gan vairāk ir turistu izmantots transporta līdzeklis, jo ir pietiekami dārgs. Katrā ziņā ūdens autobus ir projekts, ko ir vērts izvērtēt, varbūt izanalizējot, cik daudz pasažieru varētu to izmantot un kādas būtu izmaksas. So we heard that it is the reality in Rotterdam, public transit, water transit, and you can use the same tickets, same travel cards for the water transport and other public transit modes. When we were working on Jūrmala transit plan, we understood that we have to include the water transport. The municipality could pay for electricity, sewerage, other utilities, and the private business could fill up the rest. Very constructive proposals. Any other comments? If there are no other comments, let's continue with the next cycle. We have 5 more presentations to go. The riverbank. I would like to give the floor to next speaker, Inta Bieza. She will have a representative from a neighborhood association, one architect and one school student. Hello, my name is Inta Bieza and I represent Vecmīlgrāvis community. At the beginning of my presentation, I would like to remind you the first session of this conference. Guntis Vāveris, the presenter, is from Vecmīlgrāvis, and his family has lived there for many generations. And he mentioned the big giant and the small giants. And the small giants, well, these are us. In 2007, we founded our society just to start the discussion, the dialogue. Initially, we were not so successful. There was someone who said that you have to show the interest at the right time on the right place. I would like to add, you have to approach the right people. And the first person we approached at the port kept our social project in his drawer for half a year and didn't show it to anyone. Someone mentioned that the cooperation was better than the CEO of the port changed. So in our case, that was similar. With regard to our proposal, it's the Ostas kalns in Vecmīlgrāvis. The location Ostas kalns. It is the riverbank in Vecmīlgrāvis. It used to be a degraded area until 2013. And it was also the only place to access water was near Maura Street. We were not allowed to access the rest of the territory. The monument of Mangaļi Maritime School was erected there on the riverbank. On the 29th of May 2013, we also opened a playground. The square was cleaned up. And now it is a favorite recreational place for Vecmīlgrāvis families, where they can feed birds and have some rest. It was the first project implemented. Our idea, the Freeport of Riga, provided money. However, there are still untidied spots in this area. And our next plan is to tidy up the territory near the shipbuilding yard. There is a fence there. It is a beautiful natural area with pine trees. It's not possible to build anything there, and we would like to keep it as a green area for our local residents. It is kind of an industrial area where you're not allowed to build anything. This is what it looks like for now. However, the landscape is beautiful there, and there used to be a cafe there. Why couldn't we prolong this promenade? It would become a favorite place for walks. With regard to managing these premises, the playground is overseen by a representative of Riga State Forests, and every spring we help clean up. That's all from me. Mrs. Bieza showed pictures from the territory where you're not allowed to go, so trespass. Very funny, I think. Our next speaker. Good evening. Today I will represent Mangaisala Society. We drafted a development plan for Mangaisala, and several ideas are merged in this plan. I'm personally not the resident of Riga, at least not originally, but I started living here, and now I love this place. I think at least once in your lives you have traveled to Mangaisala to watch the sunset. Once when I was walking along Mangaisala Street, I realized there's a lot of military heritage, a very prominent features of places which characterize the identity of this place. When I started examining the development documents, I realized there is conflict between the zone for commercial activities near Mangaisala, which clashes with the fortification complex. These buildings have functioned side by side, and there is also a coastline nature park. So we would like to preserve the nature park and this cultural territory with its heritage as is. And we would like to create a network of paths, of routes in this territory. At the moment, when you enter Mangaisala, you see the former territory of the pioneers' camp. We could develop into a sports and recreation area. The former camp territory could be used for recreational and sports functions using the existing features. Closer to the center, here in gray, you see all the fortification structures. There are a lot of them. When I was examining the development plans, I saw that there are several paths from Mangaisala Street towards the sea, and there are no paths traversing this territory, which does not which prevents people from discovering a lot of beautiful features of Mangaisala. So with a dotted line, I've marked the former railway line. We could transform it into a path, and this path would help to discover Mangaisala and its history. In the central part, we could create or build an open-air stage on the fortification ruins, which would attract people to this territory. And briefly about this part, quayside part, we could preserve the access here as is for locals and guests. Maybe we could use it for water transport and ensure access for transport, which would bring in the equipment, for sports equipment. The bottom part of this territory, we could establish the Mangaisala center, a social center. This would help revive the existing yacht club and would provide new recreational opportunities for the residents. We could even build a pool. It would revive the Mangaisala center, which is lacking in this part of the city. In essence, it could be achieved only if both residents, Freeport, and the planners and the city municipality cooperate. Thank you. An excellent idea. Thank you. And the next presentation, I presume it's your son's idea. Yeah, my name is not Andrejs Zīlāns, as you see on the slide. I'm his mother. Andrejs Zīlāns is that boy in the picture. At the moment, he's 13 years old, and he has visited a lot of neighborhood planning events. At first, I thought he lacked the courage, but now he feels that his ideas would make him look like a white sparrow. In the context of port development, his idea is so before I tell you about his idea, imagine a beautiful day, spring, summer, autumn. You approach the waterfront. Do you feel like touching? Do you feel touching the water, or do you feel like taking your shoes off and waddling in the water, and feel the sand and stones with the balls of your feet? When Andrejs agreed to present his idea, he said, on the coast of Ķīšezers, the best places, my favorite places are the ones where I can walk freely, swim, throw stones in the water. The worst coastline I have experienced in my life is in Saloniki, the new reconstruction project of the embankment, which is the pride of its planners. However, in the length of 8 kilometers, there are only a few stairs which enable you to approach water and actually touch water. There are a lot of cities, for example, Prague, Istanbul, where the embankment is adjusted to various activities. Basel, for example, where people can freely use the water. If they can swim, they are allowed to swim. And next to the boats which go up and down the river. In Dresden, well, Dresden used to be on the list, and it hasn't been included in the World Heritage list because of its natural embankment. Andrej's idea is, in contrast to the investors' ideas. His idea is to preserve the natural environment. There's no investment needed. You just have to be patient. You should fight the impulse to refurbish and to change what is natural and beautiful as is. Thank you very much. Please don't go away. Thank you, Anda, for your idea. We would thanks to Andris for his idea. We would like to send to him a gift bag, or maybe later. Any comments about the ideas you heard? We still have a few others to listen to. So we heard proposals. Which ones are the best? It is difficult to tell which is the best, but I have to point out that all these ideas are excellent proposals, tourism proposals. They tackle accessibility problems. If we compare to the previous block of proposals of water transport, I am realizing that the boat traffic, like water transport between these destinations, is tangible. There are several objects which are ready, at least in my opinions. The accessibility is within reach. Water, unfortunately, is not accessible to many residents of Riga, at least in my opinion. Any attempts to make the waterfront more accessible would yield plenty of benefits for us as a society. All of us relax near water, don't we? I don't know any person who gets nervous in the vicinity of water, or if they don't feel comfortable near water. Riga should grab at every opportunity to implement these ideas. I don't have any favorite ideas, however, I would support reinforcing the link between Mangaļsala and Bolderaja. And I agree that we should preserve the natural territories and make them accessible to the residents. Next comment, and the biggest challenge would be how to fund of not doing anything, not touching the territories. Project Bank actually is a very interesting platform. Sometimes seemingly hopeless ideas or projects find funding. People or the crowd, the community fund the idea. They pay for this idea. I would like to encourage all the presenters, go to our website, the Project Bank website, and see if you can attract funding to your idea, if society is ready to support your idea, and if you could obtain funding for the next step of implementing your idea through our website. I'd say that the Project Bank is ready to fund Andres if he is ready to promote his idea and to help him with the marketing campaign. The best idea. Let's fund of not doing anything. What about the board and city representatives? Briefly, my favorite proposal is the one offered by Mrs. Bieza. The refurbishment of the river bank to the other side, further on. The scale is very clear, and this idea is easy to implement. However, all ideas are exciting. So the idea is good, the cooperation is positive, and I presume that others will follow the example. I would give my vote So, in my life, if I have the opportunity not to do something, I choose not to do it. And we often hear that we lack resources, that we cannot implement certain projects, and I would vote for the idea of not destroying what we can leave as is in its natural state, which does not interfere with anything and provides plenty of opportunities. If there's anyone who could promote this idea, the residents, the neighborhoods, in cooperation with the port, could work on not damaging or not changing what does need to be changed. It could be on our agenda. So we could make it clear what shouldn't be touched, so to say. In our daily lives, we often become nervous because we don't know what is hiding behind our window. Not everyone follows the latest developments, public consultations, and so on. And when you wake up in the morning, you see that someone is digging something, excavation works are going on outside your house. So there are a lot of people who have this unpleasant experience. So we could agree not to touch what shouldn't be touched, that should stay as is. And it would help prevent a lot of unnecessary anxiety. Thank you. Constructive laziness, constructive way of not doing anything. Excellent. If you have individual questions to the authors of the projects, I encourage you to ask these questions during the informal part. We still have 2 presenters to listen to. One comment maybe. I can allow 1 comment. If there are no comments, then Una, Victoria, and Rudolf. Una, the floor is yours. Next presentation about the waterfront territories.
Hello. My name is Una Kanzāne, and I represent spatial planners from the Latvian University. And I will tell you about ideas and one project which happened within the program. There were 36 representatives of different professions, of different nationalities in Turku city, in Finland. And before we went to Turku, we had the question, well, that's Finland, everything is ideal here, what can we offer them? When we studied from home what we could offer, it still seemed to us that there's nothing to do. But at the same time, we thought that maybe we can take something from Turku here back to Riga. So this story started like that. And similarly, like in Riga, also Turku is a city, port city, in a way segregated territory at the given moment. Water fronts in the port territory are closed for the wider public. They are not usable for everyone, and you can access them only in particular moments when you go to the passenger port or something like that. The aim of the project became clear to us that the territories of the existing port should be made like at the target point at the bank of the river, and then should be publicly accessible territories created for different kind of activities. However, I have to mention that the Turku city itself has moved a step ahead and has developed available water line in this territory, waterfront. There is a promenade till the territory of the port. You can see it in the map. The next stage towards which the city is moving is revitalization of these territories for people, make them accessible to the people, to introduce some activities. And we all, 36 students working in 6 different groups, agreed on that access to waters should be given, that it should be open, that people start using waterfront to implement their own activities. We decided that it should be brought to the port, that the territory should be open, and this is the experience we can bring back from Turku to Riga. We could talk about those different beautiful activities we could implement in these territories, but we cannot do that if we have no access. Inhabitants of the neighborhood are the ones to tell you the best which territories they need most. That was done in Turku city, and we really hope that you will take this experience in consideration and that you will continue to cooperate in this way. However, there are territories which do not need fencing, and it would be very useful to open them for the public. The activities, like I said, could be bigger, smaller, using boats or just walking and so on. And I want to say how we can engage people, how we can involve organizations, but you already have this knowledge, you just have to apply it. And then everything will happen. You already have enough people informed about what could happen there, how it could happen there. But again, the question is whether we do the same from the port to the center, not only from the center to the port. We should explain to people more why do we need port, why we must open these territories. Thank you. Shortly, that's all. Hello, my name is Victoria Prilenska. I was invited to curate this session, but the position number was limited. A lot of people applied. Therefore, we decided to expand the number of presentations till 12, and using my powers, I decided to participate in presentations. How many people of you who are not working in port have been in the territory of port? Okay, quite a lot. I haven't been there. And I consider that average Riga inhabitants who are not architects, who have not visited different events, have not been in the territory of the port as well. But I am preparing for this part, really try to find out what is done in the Amsterdam port, in the Rotterdam port, and here we have the representative from the Rotterdam port. But you know what? These ports have completely different strategy. This is a map of Antwerp port. They have a map with bicycle routes, with pedestrian routes, and other roads. The territory of the port is open to inhabitants. You can visit it every time. There are recreation places also. Then they have displayed the information boards along the whole territory. For example, there you see the program of 2018, different events happening in the territory of the port for kids, for grown-ups. They have also premises to be rented for marriage or birthday party or such a conference like we are having. They also have cafes and restaurants there. Actually, my question is why this conference is not being held in the territory of the port. The port should have such premises where to discuss about the port. So, but when we look at the map of our port, what happens in our port? When we look at this map, you can see that these territories marked there with green are the dangerous territories. But the majority of the rest of the territory, which is approximately 80% of the port's territory, is absolutely safe. You can be there. There are a lot of empty spaces, and you can continue that as develop that as a continuation of the city. Of course, maybe it's not economically very beneficial. At the same time, you can have recreational zones there. My idea is let's make the port as continuation of the city. Thank you. Thank you. Hello, thank you for your endurance. Latvians cities have faced floods as historically as not so many years ago. There are also romantic bird watching measures. I do not have to convince you that the clash of the land and the water is the most ecological and aesthetically the most valuable, especially in the city. In city we understand that, in city we analyze that, and we elaborate plans how to prevent the water environment in an active way. Of course, if we talk seriously, the city has to work on protection of their inhabitants and their security and comfort. How it is happening now is significantly limiting acquisition of new territories, limiting of construction, but climate tendencies work in different direction. New territories where the existing buildings are already there are being flooded. We try to prevent them with flood prevention hydro constructions, and then we come back to the same variant which was evaluated as unfavorable. And we come to this variant almost 100% with the planned anti-flood constructions. If we consequently implement these constructions, their effect on the environment is degrading. Is there any alternative? Maybe the city can divide in a spatial context how much it's going to cope with the floods in the city territory even, and to elaborate the plans for that. One idea, it would not be a dam along the bank of the river, but a move till the first reasonable secure street which would allow for the river to have its natural conditions in the geographical location where it should have it. Of course, it is reasonable to define the usable criteria for such type of territory. That is an example of my legs being dry before I stepped into the flooded area which never was flooded before. Then the answers to the big questions which are posed to us by global climate tendencies have to be found. Thank you for your attention, and I managed to finish 30 seconds earlier. So again, we heard 3 great ideas. And let's move the same way as before. Do you have any important comment from the audience we all should hear? Hello, Indra, landscape architect researcher, Association Urban Institute. A comment. Approximately 10 years ago, all these ideas were discussed in scientific environment. Practical researches have been conducted in Latvia and abroad. There were a lot of reflections, and the results of the research were displayed. But I would like to say what we do not have. During the 10 years, a lot has been done, maybe small issues. Nevertheless, what we don't have what we haven't done. That's a map of, I don't know, of ferries, of crafts, of boats, of everything. We just need to devote 15 minutes for one tourist, for him or her to find the wilderness, the recreation, to book the craft, to go to Gotland with yacht. We have yacht berths. If Andrei Osta is being developed, we have a lot of diverse things happening during those 10 years. I have been observing this process myself. Let's digitalize it. That's it. Just one more comment from the audience. If not, then Ati, from the point of view of financing, you vote for which idea? I am a bad business representative here because I am not typical. I am actually interested in the social entrepreneurship, so I would say the crazy rule the world, and I vote for all these ideas. For the last presentations, I really liked Una's presentation, and like a person who is a specialist in crowdfunding platforms, then I know that, for example, in London, I don't know why, maybe municipality lacked resources, but in London one architect office turned to one crowdfunding platform, and 1,200 Londoners gathered the necessary amount to design access to Thames and those free nature basins. Like I said, the crazy rule the world, and I just say to all the presenters, just go for it. Yes, well, concerning Una's presentation, I didn't get the idea actually, so I'm not talking about that. Continuation of the city in the port. Victoria really show that the territories in the court which are not really used for direct entrepreneurship and which are secure, and Riga Freeport should consider these possibilities of opening its gate to the inhabitants in cooperation with the citizens and city. Freeport or port is no object placed on the Mars, it's in the city, so what we are talking about in reality. Rudolf's offer, you cannot buy me free with that. Okay, in Venezia right now there are floods, but they continue to serve pieces with rubber boots. They may adapt, but let's not invent something new here. Active inhabitants do not want any flooding territories. No, definitely not. Comments from the port. Do you want to see us next year in the port's territory with this conference? In this panel, I would say 50 to 50. I am not convinced that we have so many resources to be able to finance and support all these projects. But I would like to say that the primary function of the port is for cargo handling and processing and servicing of vessels and ships, and not as a part of the city that should be available for inhabitants in every space and corner and street. Yes, we are ready for a dialogue, for constructive dialogue as far as it is reasonable, but let's not forget that terminals, territories, piers, like in the airports, like in the main roads, they serve their meaning, the primary meaning. So we hear your strict reminder to forget on the function of things. Okay, thank you. And the last comment from Guido before me close the conference. I just once again want to remind you to vote for these ideas. So, Guido, my favorite idea from this panel that was expressed here and created in my thinking during the conference when I heard about the plans of the port is invitation to look at the urban development in Upper Daugava, Daugava's left bank, and also together with the port trying to understand how this manufacturing development could look like in Spilva vicinity, and also look at the development of the left bank knowledge center. There is a potential for synergy. I would vote for this idea in this panel. And with that, we conclude the conference. Let's applaud ourselves for our good work and for all the brave people expressing their ideas. Probably it was nothing new in the scientific field and have been heard before, but it seemed very significant to initiate this discussion here and to remind ourselves and to understand what ideas should be implemented, what not, of course in cooperation with the partners, and really leave your votes for these ideas, leave your voices, and that would be like a catalyst showing us how we should continue with what capacity, taking into consideration that resources are always limited. So this conference was a good platform for setting or developing of priorities. I don't know, it seems to me that it's a very fruitful day. Thank you all, thanks to all participants, the jury, all the present for the discussion, and probably that's all. Maybe we missed something. No, thank you, that's all. Thanks again for your endurance. We invite you to express your comments to the authors of the ideas. Now you can go to the cafe part in the backstage and there continue your conversations with the glass of wine, and then slowly go home and reflect on these good ideas. Start with your ideas.